Hello, welcome back to Plasticity Live. In this episode, I want to share this concept, basically like a way of you to think in a 2.5D way. Kind of useful when you are actually modeling and want to add details on the surface of objects. So at the moment, it's gonna look really weird. So I made this in Plasticity, and it seems like like just by using shapes and simply extruding it up, right? And the process is like, okay, I have all this 3D parasolid. I can join them, um, but let me hide those and refill this curve. Okay, how to what's the shortcut? So just gonna refill all and then just gonna edge and hide the rest. So this is the original creation. It's basically I'm using this line and just draw on top of another lines, and they become kind of like a 2D shapes overlapping each other. But the cool thing is about plasticity, you can always extrude any shapes. You can extrude down as well. It doesn't matter which directions you want to go. And also this like the teeth of this really weird character, so it's becoming like a 2.5D business. But this give you um, ability to add details on something that was flat. So it might not seem so obvious. Some people might think, okay, this is super basic, right? But if you check YouTube channel like for GridModeler, the way the artist Kushiro, okay, the way using the GridModeler tool is like, I have this already installed. So with the inside Blender with the GridModeler, you are basically let's say we have this box, and I will make bevel, Control B. If you want to add details on this area with GridModeler, it's similar to Plasticity. So you're on this surface and then you just right click and enable GridModeler, and you basically need to select face first. So let me select face and then GridModeler. So we have this grid and we can start drawing on top of this. The cool thing, of course, you can extend the grid using options, right? Similar to Plasticity. And you start drawing. And then you right click, and then maybe you want to use array, copies. Same drill, and right click, and 5, I think 5, creating a slice. So yeah, so same drill up here. We are in edit mode and create GridModeler, and then we extend, and then we are actually drawing on top of this. And then this time I will actually tap 3 and extrude. And at this point I can do GridModeler again and draw on top of this. Right click, maybe select all, duplicates, right click, and 3 again, create new face. So it's almost like a stacking, drawing and stacking in 3D. right? So it's a simple idea, but it's actually super useful. And if you want to do it in 2D, for example, okay, let's do a 2D animations. I will show you a similar concept. So by default, 2D animation, grease pencil in Blender, if you draw stroke, right, it's just like lines on top of each other. If you increase the radius, you can see the lines kind of overlapping because the opacity of these strokes, by default the strength is 0.6. Okay, but we can increase that and we have bold lines, but this is just lines. It looks like lines until you close the shapes and starting to resemble something. So it's basics, lines into shapes, right? And with grease pencil, of course, you can always use a solid. So instead of using strokes, you are using solid fills. And with solid fills, when you're drawing something, it becomes like a shapes. Same drill with the shapes, I think. Okay, with the shapes, material, we can change the base color and reduce the alpha. Now, this mode might look, some people might not like this mode at first, but I found that if we have opacity on something and you're kind of doodling something, and this is actually more useful than just a solid fill. We have alpha and we are building something. So if you can draw anything much easier, you know, like I don't know, you're drawing Spider-Man, you have the body, right, and you're drawing shapes. Maybe this is like a robot. You're drawing shape on top of each other, and you know they're overlapping. There's a lot of shadings happening there underneath, but whenever you add a shading, that's adding details on that areas, and you don't need to get things right at once because you can always fix the shapes, right? So it's similar idea. In fact, if you think of the design of animals, any animals, if you're drawing like a creatures, like a new design for creatures, what is this? Maybe a llama wearing glasses. Yeah, the profile, if you start with any, you can draw anything from the profile. If you are designing anything from the profile, your brain kind of look at it, okay, and can sort of visualize it in 3D, right? I think that's the basic idea anyway. Imagine these lines like just the profile of something, the profile, and then you're gonna turn this into 3D using that, because I think I know why this actually works, because our brain can look at shapes and then it's gonna think in depth. Okay, if we reverse this, we start to see some kind of depth. The one that's really dark is the one that's closer to us. The one that's fade away or white color is just you know, it's not important though. If you draw things like this, the one that's really dark, like nearly black, that's closer to us, it's like a reverse of depth theory. But in 3D, this could be a good way to think of how you want to add details or something. So yeah, like a blueprint. If you think, okay, this arm robot, the one that's like a profile, it looks almost like 3D until you rotate it. Okay, the side profile, you can actually draw. You can definitely draw this inside Plasticity. Draw just all of these shapes, and then you start extruding, and it's gonna be 3D. Even though, yeah, it's not. Yeah, like this robot. If you just draw this in Plasticity, just draw, and then you can start extruding and that could be like an interesting starting point. Yeah, so let's try doing that. We are in top view. I know it's okay. It says top, and we can start drawing. You can draw with any method, even with the crazy spline curve. I think Plasticity has too many snapping actually. Face, curve, edges, too many. Sometimes maybe you probably just turn it off altogether and just draw happily. Okay, it's not snapping to the end. Just I don't like what happened if I just snap it to the curve itself. Okay, it's not snapping to the end, but you can hold control and it's close. Okay, I like the close shapes for now. Shift R. It's a lot of hotkey as well that you need to be mindful. And okay, let's Shift R and let's draw the eye, for example, like this. Shift R again. Spline curve. And I will use lines now. You look, I have a lot of. Okay. Now it's like there are a lot of overlapping, and it's just a bunch of lines. Save this as Plasticity shapes. Okay, we are drawing shapes. I know it's really weird ways of using Plasticity, but I think it's a cat for artists. So if you're an artist, why don't you use it like an artist? Let's use a trim tool. Trim tool is very cool because you can just trim away lines that you don't want. Look, right? You gotta need to click on each line. But it's still, yeah, it's fun. So back to our business. You can select on the shapes and then O inset, you can inset out, inset in, out or in, whichever you like. And yeah, again, trim. Should we trim? Yeah. Trim away lines that's overlapping, that you don't want. Save. Let's say we are drawing the body. The body. Okay, let's use lines. With lines, you have hard edges, and sometimes you want to snap. So I'll have control come in handy. If this is like a robot and I'm drawing the profile, this area we can also add like a circle and or end-gone. I'll try a circle on this. So a lot of shapes overlapping, and we're gonna extrude soon. Let's actually do that now. So the shapes itself is cool. You can select the shapes that like this and then extrude it out you get these shapes. But if you if you select the whole thing, like you can select, I believe you can just drag and select, you know, and then extrude like that, you actually get the whole thing. Oh, in this case, it's almost like a sheet of objects that's being extruded. This guy is actually solid. The rest of them is shit. Okay, delete that. But the head, we actually get the whole thing of the head. That's what we want. Let's refill all the curve again. The curve is, we draw the curve on the ground plane, right? This part is extruded, and we can always make it rounded. So it's like drawing on top of a pancake. This kind of a weird way to do things. Okay, with the ears here. We got too many things going on. Let's select the ears. Extrude. You can extrude this in like that actually. Yeah, just trying things. Oh, it could be like right, yeah, now just extruding areas. So the final result is going to be 2.5D, and like but it has depth. It's not fully 3D like you might think, but this could be a starting point. If you draw this in a profile, it's gonna make more sense. And you just connect things like, just connect the dots. Okay, that doesn't create the shapes. We need to select face and extrude it. It's like this face, extrude. And then we have these areas that looks like n-gon. Select that areas, extrude. Oh no, we missed one. You know, this already resembles something like a part of robots. If you don't like the square, squarish look, you can always hit B. Oh, actually select this outline and then B. You can make it rounded. Probably that area should still be sharp, but the outside can be rounded. Just for demonstrations, we don't care too much about that. Right, this part already resembles some like a robot. It needs to make some kind of motions, because with CAD, when we think of the design, we want to be able, if we make this into real things, like a real robot, it needs to be able to move. So it's like a joints. We need to take considerations of the design. If I select this face and then O, we can have smaller areas. We can simplify things, like maybe deleting that. Can we delete that? Shift X, and then just connect the lines, because we don't want that to be rounded, right? So we need to enable snapping again. Join. And we need to be able to imprint it back into the objects. Shift I. Shift I and then imprint. Oh, it goes down there. Maybe I did something wrong, but let's just hide that. So we can still extrude. It's just, yeah, it's really weird. Okay, it works. So yeah, that's the whole method. You know, like, it's a business of extruding. And we can bevel it. Don't bevel it like rounded like that. Maybe bevel it this way, you know, because you want to, maybe you want to modify and add more details around these areas. Okay, it's becoming 3D, even though it's it's originally 2D, and you can also work on the side here like usual, adding details, you know. I don't know what method this is actually, but you basically start with a 2D shapes and then work around it, slowly work around the shapes. I'm still not used to this method myself, but this might be something. See, the top and the bottom can be joined together using Q, Boolean. So you can think of this like a volume, and yeah, and all this solid. Eventually we get rid of all this curve. Just hide it for now. And then if you are working with profile, let's select just the solid. You can do that. And then you start working in turning this into 3D if you want to. Rotate it 90 degrees, hold control, snap it 90 degrees. At the moment, looking pretty silly. R, rotate again 90 degrees. You get the leg. I mean, this is like just for demonstrations, but the leg, this part starting to look like 3D. This area probably lack of details, but because in plasticity you can extrude. This is the too many things you can select. Turn off the X-ray. Okay, we got that thing that we don't need. We accidentally make this oh, lines. You know, if we just draw lines on these objects, we imprint it, right? So we can actually use pipe. Pipe is also useful to add details, and we can adjust the vertex count and oh, anyway, just maybe right click. Yeah, that's adding that details. This face we can bevel a little bit or not. Okay, maybe get rid of that pipe ideas. Let's get rid of this line. I like this part. I want to get rid of this part. I should be able to do that. Okay, maybe bevel this. Inset of or offset. This area is also inset. And you keep working like that. If we select like that, this is one side of the leg, and we can use mirror. Start reshaping this more. Control R just to add isoform. Control R. Select the face. Control R. Add isoform. Isoform is also super handy for adding details. Like Control R and then hit Tab. I'm sure there's like artists out there with this similar logic when designing a character. It has certain style on it. It's like some kind of weird method. So I'm making like a character robot that's looking like a sun. Right? We're really building this up. The back areas we can keep extruding it. So inset, extrude, inset, extrude. It's almost like 3D. It's like all right? It's pretty fun kind of workflow. You're not committed to anything at first, but as you start designing it, and then you're starting to have like a something that's looking solid. The bottom part, of course, you can always draw something just to close the bottom areas, or you can always extrude this, maybe even rotate. Okay, see, this works. Doing something flat so this character can stand on its own. This one doesn't work. That's okay. Oh, look, this works. Maybe that was just lucky. Select all, select this, delete, select all, select this, and then mirror again, boom. Select this, select all of this, move it, select solid, G, grab and move. We have character that's non-symmetrical now. You can always select shape like that, you know, duplicate it, all, offset. Now we have these shapes. You can extrude. It's really weird workflow. But it might be fun. I mean, for some people, if you're just starting with 3D, this also help you not to be afraid of 3D. It's really powerful tools. It's all everyone's learning at the moment how to make 3D better for artists. And 3D artists also can learn to work in, you know, thinking in 2D, because it could be simpler, things like that. Right, we got something going on here. Keep going. Right, it's a sun. It's a robot sun. Okay. Very cool. I like the depth on this character. If you bring this to Blender and you want to sculpt it, you can. It might work as well. Let me just add something there. Extrude. Yeah, I don't mind. I quite like this character. Okay. Let's say we are happy with this. File, export, save as Plasticity. Let's save as OBJ. We want to bring this into Blender, and in Blender you can do more. Okay, let's call this Sun Robot. This is triangulated. You can export as quad or n-gon. N-gon seems cleaner. Quad is also okay. We can quadrify, gridify the character like that. Let's do an n-gon. Export as n-gon. and open up Blender. File, import obj, rx minus 90. We have our character still. Join all of them as a single solid object, and then remesh. Cool, right? Very cool. We can remesh this, and then we can do like a, what is it called, retopology. You can redraw this in Blender and do whatnot that you like. You can actually rig this, but now I just do like quick remeshing. I remesh this into a single object and then right click, convert to mesh, go to sculpt mode. You know what I'm trying to do, make this like a balloon. Cloth filter, inflate. Okay, inflate, if you're, you know, you can do that. It's become like full balloon. If you inflate a little bit and deflate it back, yeah. And at this point, it's really a little bit marking around, but you know, it's a balloony character. It's a balloon. You want to paint this. If you want to paint this character, then you need to go to F3, Smart UV Project. Now we have a UV for this character, and we can actually paint on this character. Where's the paint tool? Object, texture, paint. Okay, we forgot. Okay, we have material. Let's create a new material, new texture, base color. Okay, and painting. Start painting on this. I think I have a B painter already installed. That's why we have these tools that maybe not on your computer, but with B painter you have more tools than the original one that comes with Blender. So now it's at this point I'm just marking around. This is, it's a lot of fun at this point. Yeah, but let's use normal brush. Right click, what is right click? Okay. Adjust the radius. Okay, maybe the eyeballs can be different color. Right? It's got a cartoony character. It's got its own personality. It's truly, this character is truly something. Yeah, okay, the back. We always forget the back, so I forget the back. You can always smooth the areas, you know, back to sculpt mode. You can always relax and smooth areas, inflate areas. Just you get sculpting tool, you can smooth this area. But it's becoming something else. It's no longer the character we know. Maybe don't do that. I like this actually. You can always sculpt. It's not adding details, just doing a sculpting. Yeah, I need to practice sculpting, but we got our character. Save, sun, file, external data, pack resources. Oh, actually, we need to save the image. Save as sun diffuse, because I want to be able to export this out, create a USDZ. Anyhow, so yeah, so that's the whole process. It's really weird way of modeling. But if you first starting with 3D and then you want to kind of work in 2.5D, drawing shapes, you can do it this way. It's still some kind of method. It's some people actually do this on the fly while they're working in 3D. So they have that like the base model first, and then you want to add details. And for the details, they're doing it in 2.5D kind of way, you know, adding details. Yeah, anyhow, that's the whole process. Hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.